Welcome back. My name is Steven Payne, Director of the Bronx County Historical Society. Today is April 6th, 2023, and we're really happy to be here for part two of an oral history with Marti Zuckrow. In the last part, Marti left off kind of right as you were moving to California. So if you wouldn't mind picking up there, and I know you have a whole rich history since you've been in California as well, but the kind of the initial move to California at first and everything behind that and your initial experiences, if you want to start there.
Okay. Let's see. My best friend Helen, Helen was married to Carl Jurgens, and they lived in the first court. And
Sure.
Helen and I hung out 24/7. Our kids were like, I don't know, 2 weeks difference age. They walked, at the same time. And Helen had moved to a commune in California, in Berkeley, California. And my first husband, who had mental illness, was hospitalized. And I decided I was going to take a trip to California. Not really knowing that I was going to stay there. I didn't know what I was doing. But anyhow, I had an Uncle George, and he was driving out to California, and I think it was a Volkswagen. So we drove out to California, and I had a cousin who lived in Palo Alto, and anyhow, they drove me to this commune, and I was like nearly had a heart attack. This commune, there were like about 45 people playing music and jamming and smoking dope. And here was this housewife from the Bronx. And there were a few people that were on the lam. I don't even know what it was. Anyhow, I landed there. And my best friend Helen was there, so that was great. And it's funny how I ended up staying here. I went out one night with a bunch of people from the commune because I had childcare, which was just amazing.
Yeah.
And they kind of paired me up with this creepy guy. We went to some bar, and I didn't like the guy at all. And I looked around and I saw this red-haired guy, and I said, "Could you help me out? Will you lie and just say that we're old friends and I just met you and I'm leaving with you?" So we did. And
Wow.
I ended up living with him for 4 years. Gerald, nice guy. He was a Vietnam vet, which was interesting. He had been injured, and at any rate, so I stayed at the commune. Helen moved back. She broke up with Carl, and she moved back to the Coops, into my old apartment in the Coops.
Oh.
And she actually ended up sleeping with one of my old boyfriends, who it was hysterical. And so when she moved back, I mean, I was there really for her. Anyhow, then Joe moved in. Anyhow, Joe and I moved out together with my kids. And it was wonderful here because they had free preschool. It was in Berkeley.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, you didn't pay anything.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my kids got into preschool. What did I do? Then I got really involved in the women's movement.
Sure.
Joella had actually introduced me to, but I was afraid then.
I remember you saying they brought you to Bronx Park for, was it a consciousness raising?
I was scared to death.
How did you become involved in the women's movement at the time?
Well, because I had friends out here that I knew from Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and they were involved, and the women's movement was humongous at that time. So I got involved with the women's movement, and what happened then? Lesbianism was happening all over the place, so
Sure.
I decided to be a lesbian for a while. And I was a dancer. I remember I started teaching dance. There was a lesbian school called Breakaway.
Mm.
And I started teaching dance there through that program. God, God, it's so hard to remember. Then I discovered the co-op, which had free childcare for like when you were shopping.
Oh, okay.
So I found that I could leave my kids there for 2 hours and go take dance classes, which I did. And I got involved with Shaw Anderson Dance Center, and I studied there because, I was a dancer. Ended up teaching there. My kids went there. All right. It's kind of
What
hard.
kind of dance did you
I was a
did you
modern
do?
dancer.
Modern
My
dance.
first dance classes were, well, I told you, in the ALP headquarters with Ellie, the one I lived with, and then with Edith Siegel in the Coops. I
Yeah,
think I mentioned that. Yeah.
you did, yeah.
Yeah. And then, as a teenager, I got serious and studied with Sarah Bartell and dance. That became my life. Let's see. This part is trickier. Okay, so I got real involved with dance. I discovered Ashkenaz, the Ashkenaz, which was a what is it? It's kind of like a nightclubby kind of thing.
Okay.
David Nadel. There actually is a David Nadel Memorial Day in Berkeley that they celebrate. But David was a Jew from, I think, L.A., and he opened this place, and I started teaching dance classes there. He was a maniac. He was a vegetarian way before, very, very, very left, to the point of, obnoxiousness.
Yeah.
But we became best friends. And at that point I was on welfare, and I was teaching there, and he would have to I would make some money from my dance classes, and he would have to write down to the welfare that this is how much money I made. And then they would deduct that from my welfare, because I was on AFDC, Aid to Families with Dependent Children.
Sure.
And then I guess I was dabbling in the women's movement and got involved with the women's celebration at the Berkeley, what was it? The co-op. And I met this woman, Tina, and I brought my dance company to perform at this. Tell me if I'm railing on too much.
No. Continue. This is great.
Yeah. I brought my dance company to perform at this women's celebration, where we had stripped down naked near these trees in the river and made movies of it to show, and we did a dance.
You know what's funny, just to interject real quick. I've heard of a very similar performance near the Amalgamated. We're talking in the late 20s.
Cool.
It might have been it might have been the Shalom Aleichem co-op that it came out of, but that avant-garde Yiddish modern dancers dancing naked in Van Cortlandt. I've heard, 50 years probably before that, but it's wild to think about. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, well, I did teach. I taught modern dance, but I also had naked improvisational classes for women at Ashkenaz, which was really fun.
Oh, wow.
Anyhow, so then I got involved with this woman, Tina, who I lived with as a lesbian for 7 years.
Sure.
And that was kind of a mistake, because I was not really a lesbian, and I loved women, and I loved the philosophy, but sexuality never really worked for me with women. But I wanted it to, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Everyone was trying to be a lesbian in those days.
Sure.
And during that time, I finished my BA at Antioch West. It was like a 9-month program, and I got a BA it was called Feminist Dance. And I actually paid for it by teaching dance classes there.
Oh.
And they paid for me to do dance therapy. It was great. And then I went on, I got a master's in kinesiology with a dance option. So then I had my master's. Let me see. My community doesn't have anything to do with the Coops. Who I stayed very friendly with was my friend Harris Salzberg, who didn't live in the Coops, but we were, I've seen him every few years, which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him for a while. We danced together with Edith Siegel. Who did I stay in touch with at the Coops? I think nobody, truthfully,
Yeah.
because nobody. Helen moved to Montreal. Um,
Was your sister still in the Coops at that point, or she?
no, my sister had moved. My sister had moved to Co-op City when Shari, her youngest daughter, was young, and that's why I asked Shari if she wanted to be part of this, but she said she doesn't remember much because she was 4 when they moved to
Yeah,
Co-op City, so she really didn't remember. I mean, of
sure.
course, if Butcher and Robin were alive, they would have been great,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about it. So let me see. Yeah, I was a rabid feminist for a while, which was hilarious because my best friend was a boy, a man, who I was having sex with at the time that I was a lesbian. It's pretty crazy.
And were
And
you?
then go ahead.
I was gonna say, were you a part of any like women's liberation organizations or anything like that, or just kind of involved broadly?
No, just involved, just
Yeah.
involved. And, I remember we would walk around with, what was our saying was, uh, let me see. A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. I remember that was that was that was our thing. And then I was, I was teaching in community colleges and teaching dance. And I got a job at North of Market Senior Center. That was in the Tenderloin.
Okay.
That's when my current life, in a sense, began. That's when I met Robert, my husband.
Yeah.
And I was a activities coordinator, recreational therapist. And that was wonderful because that was great political people. We were working with homeless seniors. It was very, very wonderful. I felt like I had come home in a sense.
Sure. Sure.
And Robert at the time was working across the street with homeless kids.
Wow.
And our organizations got together because and we took the seniors over to where Robert was, Hospitality House, which was for homeless folks. And my seniors did art there. They did dance with me, and then Robert and I started a theater company with them. And so that was how Robert and I met and fell madly in love.
Wow.
Yeah, and still am to this day. And
Around what years are we talking about there? Just to get a sense of.
well, I'm trying to think. Robert and I started living together when my kids were like 15 and 17.
Okay.
They're now 53 and 55.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Oh, it's about 38 or 39 years, I think.
Yeah. I see. I see.
Yeah, and but then I loved it there, but I had this witch of a boss, just an absolute witch of a boss. And so and then I ended up leaving. I really didn't want to leave because I loved that place. But and I got a job at Home for Jewish Parents, being the
Mhm.
recreational person there, and I hated it there. I was very, very sad because I thought, oh, the Jews, they'll be great, but it was horrible. No union, divide and conquer, just pigs. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and I was, because I really thought, wow. Although there was a guy who was a rabbi there who I really liked, and I loved the residents,
Sure.
but the management sucked. And then my first husband died, and I got some money from Social Security or something. I quit that job and I just said, I'm just going to make a teaching movement and dance. I just
Yeah.
took a risk. I just took a risk. And that's what I did. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, that's what I did. And then I got, I taught dance, I taught fitness, I taught yoga. I got certified in aqua therapy, did that a lot. I loved that really. And that was another wonderful experience because I was also working at a particular facility where I could get gym memberships for people on workers' comp. so that they
Oh,
could, so that they could rehab in the water. Because that's, you know, if you've had a hip injury or, you know, a replacement. And so that felt really good. That fed my political self, you know, because a lot of these people had no money at all and they could never have been gym members, and I could get them. So that was really, really good. And I did that, I think about, I don't know, 15, 16 years.
wow.
And then, and at the same time, I was the aerobics director at another facility in San Leandro. And that was, I called, those are the normal people. They were kind of the middle class, not political, nice people, but people I would never really know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of knew my daughter was a lesbian, you know, my husband was a crazy artist. They, I don't want to say they were amused. They were interested. They had never met anybody really so offbeat. They were
Yeah.
very, very nice, you know, but they had no clue about my background. And because to them, those people, I never told them my background. Now I'm really, really open about being red diaper baby everywhere that I
Sure.
go. But I was
Sure.
still nervous. I was thinking the FBI is going to come and get me. Someone's going to arrest me. You know,
Abs-
that stayed with me for a very, very long time. I think I was pretty traumatized by that.
I'm
Uh,
sure.
yeah. And then the Courthouse Athletic Club, which was a great place, they closed. And so yeah, that's when I went on state. I think I went on Social Security. I was only 62.
Okay.
And then I was just doing personal training with seniors,
Yeah.
which also felt great. And it's funny because my main clients were old Jewish ladies, which was nice. You know, it was really, really nice. You know, I'd come to personal training. Hey, Bubba, have some tea. Here's this. Or the Jewish holidays, I remember they would bring, what are those delicious rugelach?
Oh, Rugelach. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I did that. And then my sister got really more sick with Parkinson's, and I couldn't take care of people anymore. It was just like I can't do it anymore. It
Yeah.
was drained. So that's when I stopped doing that. And it was I still dancing? No, I wasn't. Yeah, I was somewhat dancing, doing on my own, and then I got involved about 6 years ago with a yoga studio, and they're great. They give me a great discount because they know I'm low income. I mean,
Sure.
and because I am very low income.
Sure.
No complaints. You know, I enjoy. I didn't work the corporate bullshit, so you know, you can't have it at both ends, and that's
That's right.
how it is. So, and then I got involved with, I think I mentioned the SPCA. I've been there for about 15 years. And
Yeah.
that's also wonderful work because it's working with traumatized dogs. And I just feel like I'm making a real contribution
Yeah.
to, you know, to the world by animals. And I'm real involved. I have my grandson lived with me for 7 years because his parents had a lousy marriage. Now my granddaughter lives with me,
Wow.
and I'm very involved with family, I guess, which I didn't think I would be because I wasn't like you know, your housekeeping mom, you
For
know.
sure.
I was crazy. I'm so
You were choreographing nude dances.
right. But
Amazing.
yeah, it's just funny. But I mean, now I'm kind of the matriarch, which is kind of nice.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Well, I have my grandson, Chris, who's 28. I have my granddaughter, Naomi, who's 26. And then I have my grandson, Ari, who'll be 15.
Okay, okay, wow.
They all tell me Ari's going to end up living here too, but I don't know. I'm hoping not. They all end up here.
Um,
And
and
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I think that what's hard for me in my life right now is my sister's condition because she's in terrible shape. She really doesn't want to live, and her life sucks. You know, both of her children, well, two of her three children died. It's hard on her other daughter, Sherry. she'd like to end it, but she doesn't know how, and just so that weighs on me a lot. I talk to her every single day, and I'm the person that and I encourage her to bitch and fetch to me.
Absolutely.
Because she can't really talk, so we talk about death a lot. That's hard on me. That's one of the hard things right now in my life. But
Where where is she right now? Is she still in the Bronx or
no, she's in San Diego.
in San Diego? I see.
What happened is I moved out here, then Butchie moved out here and lived with me for a while.
Okay.
Then Shari moved out. No, then Robin moved out here. And then Shari moved out here. And then my sister
Ah,
finally moved out here.
oh,
And
wow.
she had moved to Alameda, and then she lived in Rossmore, which is a senior housing thing. And she married this guy we call White Bread, Ralph. It's kind of jerk, but he was very nice to her. So that was good for her. But I feel very bad for her. She's very scared if something would happen to me or her daughter. And I don't blame her. I mean, she's, lost 2 children and 2 husbands. So it's crummy. I really wish we had human euthanasia, because they won't, it's not terminal. Parkinson's is not terminal, because I think you can get help if you're terminal.
Yeah.
So that's hard.
How
And
long
I
has she had Parkinson's?
I asked her if she wanted to be part of this. She said no, she didn't really know. She's she's cognizant totally, but she forgets words and stuff. So
Sure. Hmm. That's
she,
hard.
yeah, they told her she had benign tremors a long time ago. I knew it was Parkinson's because I had worked with Parkinson's people. And then I remember at my 70th birthday party, which they all came to, Rob, everyone, I knew then, and so it was really showing signs of it. I think she fell one time then, so that was like 9 years ago, because I'm going to be 79 next week. So it's 9 years ago.
Wow. Mm.
And
And
I went to see her recently. It was hard.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Wow. And how did Al Senior, how did he pass and
He
when did he pass?
he was young. Al had prostate cancer
Oh, wow.
way back in the day.
Wow.
And I think they had said to him, and they were using, I don't know, some kind of seeds that they put in testicles or something like that. And they could have done something, but there was a risk of becoming impotent and incontinent.
Oh.
No way, I'm not doing it.
Mm.
So I think
Wow.
he was young. I think he was in his early 60s when
Yeah.
he died. And at his funeral, we had our Orthodox cousin sing Kaddish, and it was quite a mixture.
From one end of the spectrum to the
Yeah,
other.
that was great. That was really great.
Uh, Um, well, I know you mentioned before, in the first part that on Yom Kippur, your father would stand out front of the synagogue. Is there any
Yes.
other kind of uh, you know, observance that either you had in your childhood or that you've incorporated in now? Like, would you all ever do like the Red Seder? I don't know if I know it's popular in parts of the Soviet Union, but I don't know. I've
No,
never.
no. I know, I never heard of it. We did have a Seder, which was wonderful. It was certainly an atheist Seder,
Yeah.
where we sang Pete Seeger songs and, remembered people in the Holocaust and blah, blah, blah. But we did that. I think that was the only thing that we did. And then
Okay.
Hanukkah, yeah, we'd have potato latkes. But
Sure.
no, we didn't. And no, and I mean, it's interesting. I did Seders for a while. I kind of don't want to be bothered, which I wish I
Yeah.
could be. I don't want to be bothered. Do you?
No, 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 no. I mean, my wife has talked about it uh before, especially maybe some of the secular ones looking into it, but you
Yeah.
gotta have so many little things that, you
Yeah.
know, Horseradish. We don't really have that.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Well, there's a hysterical thing that I just saw on the internet. I wish it's hilarious. It's this Italian comedian talking about going to a Seder. And because I'm Italian, I want to eat, and they want to read for 2 hours. I mean, it was just hysterical.
Uh, what kinds of other than the things you already mentioned, singing Pete Seeger songs, remembering people killed in the Holocaust and all, what other kinds of things would you all do at secular seders? Is that something that was part of the shul, or just kind of your own practice that you developed?
I think it's my family practice. We'd sing Dayenu and knock on the table and go down Moses and um, what else? There was nothing Hebrew in it, and we
Sure.
we hide the matzah, but we didn't really believe that we would put it out. I think if I remember correctly, I forget who we were supposed to leave, but we left it for a poor person outside.
Sure. Sure.
And yeah, and then if there was a young kid, they would look for it. Yeah, my Uncle Saul was the highlight because he would all give us $5. So that was what I yeah, so
Uh, is there very much of any kind of community of like secular Jews in Berkeley that you've
there is, and I
with over
don't.
the years? Yeah,
No, I don't. I don't. I know that I feel affinity with Jews, but I don't know exactly what that is or what it
sure,
means, but I feel it.
sure.
And at both careers, my animal career and my dance and fitness, not many Jews,
Yeah.
not many Jews. I remember, I think I told you, and I started working at home for the Jewish parents. And I'd say, okay, it's time for exercise. And I go, what do you mean? We need to talk to the current events, and please, no exercise. So
That's funny.
it was hysterical. It was just hysterical. But I know that there's like, I think 2 Jews at the SPCA. So yesterday they say happy Passover, and I said the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow.
I don't. And I have friends that do. I know one of my friends, she was a client of mine who became a really good friend. She belonged to some humanist Jewish something or other where they didn't believe in God, but she went to Friday night services there. There was nothing with God,
Sure, sure,
and she liked that.
sure. Yeah. Um,
Now,
you
Butchie's ex-wife, she's become quite religious.
Oh, okay, okay, I see.
And her Butchie's kids all went to Jewish school and went to Jewish high school,
Oh, wow, okay.
except for Lana. Lana went to Jewish school, but then they put her in public school.
Okay, I see. I
And then
see.
my Shari, and actually, and Shari, and when Robin was alive, they do celebrate the Jewish holidays. Shari does. Shari celebrates
Okay,
Seder. Yeah, they do a lot more. They very much identify as Jews.
sure. Sure. Is your sister in the same situation, or she kind of
Uh,
is more similar to you?
uh, trying to think. I think she likes the traditions. I mean, now it's hard for her because her family is not around that much, but
Yeah.
she likes it. And like they come and they take her out. See, she's wheelchair bound and she got really heavy. And so it's really hard to get her out of the wheelchair into the car. So they can't take her out much, but they'll
Oh,
bring her there for the Seder.
okay, I see.
And they're doing a Seder on Zoom. And then Butchie's girlfriend, they lived, and she's the one who really took care of him. She's very involved. She stayed very involved with Robin and Shari, and not with Robin. Robin had died.
Yeah.
And she's doing a Seder with my cousin Peggy. Peggy, yeah. Anyhow, that's the other side of the family.
Okay, okay, I see. I see. And uh it sounds like pretty much all the family moved out to California. Do you have any family at all that is still in the New York area?
No, no. Well, my first husband, Eddie, his family is there, but they
Oh,
kind
sure.
of disowned me because I left a crazy man. So, I mean, which I should have done.
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, with due respect, they tried. They still reached out. His father was nice to me for years, and then it just faded. The whole thing
Yeah.
faded.
Yeah, definitely. So do you remember much of like your sister's impressions that she might have shared with you about Co-op City? How was the adjustment from the Coops to Co-op City for them? If she shared it with you, she might not have.
Well, I think they liked it because I had a big apartment.
Yeah,
I think they liked it, because they were, a big family and they would lived in small rooms. I think that they did like it,
sure.
but it was new.
Yeah, built on a swamp pretty
Yes,
much.
yes. I think Freedom Land had been there or something beforehand, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah,
it?
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Um, but uh, over all the years, how would you say that the Coops, living in the Coops, being around the Coops, how has it shaped the course of your life?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, because I felt, in my school, because I didn't go to the school that the Coops kids went to. I felt like an outcast.
Yeah,
But the Coops and Camp Kinderland and the Shula is where I felt that was my home. So, and I mean, yeah, that's where I mean, it was wonderful. I felt safe.
yeah,
I felt safe, and in school, it was high school too was, I mean, well, what I did in high school, I hung out only with black kids because somehow that felt better to me. I
sure.
just, I wasn't regular middle class.
Yeah,
But the Coops, yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, when I grew up hanging out as a kid, and then I loved living there. I mean, God, first of all, it was amazing right across the street from Bronx Park East,
absolutely.
and it was just a good feeling there. It was a
Sure.
lovely, yeah, just warm, friendly. Of course, those days there wasn't the crime that there is now,
Yeah,
but it was, I think that it really, it's a lot who I am, I think. I mean, I think I really crave community. The SPCA has become my community, the yoga. I need to be around like-minded people.
sure.
Um, and I find that in my life. I seek it out. And I
Yeah.
think it comes from feeling I know where I belonged.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of many other housing complexes in New York City that have such an intentional approach to community, even though there were plenty of road bumps. But
Yeah, yeah. I would think that. I don't know historically other places, but
yeah,
it was just kind of wonderful.
yeah, yeah. Um, another thing I wanted to ask you specifically about the Coops. I know you talked some about this in the first part, but are there, say, like adult figures that you remember, whether they were, parents of friends or just people around the Coops that kind of stick in your mind from when you were living there? Particularly like influential, or maybe they just had charisma or whatever it might be. Any like adult figures at the time that you remember from the Coops?
Yeah, well, I remember, I don't know if he lived in the Coops, but I remember my parents had friends. I think they lived in the Coops, and the man had gone to Spain to fight.
Oh,
He was disfigured.
okay, yeah,
And I remember that a lot. I mean, he was disfigured, and I remember hearing about it and seeing him and being weird.
sure.
Um, There was, I think that his name was Steven. He was a black guy. His father, I think, was a cab driver or a bus driver.
Oh, yeah. Was it Steven Dickerson?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I
yeah.
liked his father a lot.
But Buddy, I think
Yeah. For some reason, I really remember Buddy. Is he a
yeah.
part of this at all?
He So
God.
Stephen passed. Charlotte, his younger
Stephen
sister,
passed? Stephen
yeah,
passed?
Stephen
Huh.
passed, and both of his parents, Angie and
Yeah,
uh,
buddy.
Buddy, have both passed. Um, but Charlotte, the daughter of the family, she's still alive. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
Stephen. I remember Stephen. He had he had roving hands. I remember he felt me up many times. I think I went with Stephen for the first time in my life to we went to a Japanese restaurant.
Oh, really? In the Bronx?
No, I think we went to Manhattan. I say
Yeah.
somewhere. And I remember they cooked food on the table for us in the walk.
Wow.
And then Milton was a
Milton Bailey.
oh, I loved, he was a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He was a good friend of mine. He was also so handsome and he was lovely. Is he still alive? Do you know?
I haven't been able to find him, but so I can't. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. But I've looked for him actively, and I haven't been able
Yeah.
to find him
Oh,
yet.
he was wonderful. And I think I told you, my friend Nancy Turner, she was my best friend. She was a Jehovah Witness. She was Black.
Yeah,
I loved her mother. Her mother was a cleaning lady.
sure.
I loved her. She was just the most wonderful woman. They lived like in the basement.
Okay, I think she had a brother who was much older.
I don't know.
Did you ever meet?
I
Yeah,
don't know if she had a brother. I know the father was a train conductor or not
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
But
But she's still alive, right, Nancy?
well, I don't know. She was I lost touch with her. She was a Jehovah Witness, and
I
I'm
think
not
she
sure
is.
Hawaii or she. Oh, we had a good time. She was like my best friend from there. And then I was friends with the Chisholms, and I remember the son. He got killed in Vietnam, I think, and it was
Oh,
Shirley. There were two daughters and a son, and I hung out with them. Dolores. I remember they had bunk beds.
huh.
Dolores. They lived in the first court.
I don't think anyone's mentioned them to me before.
Yeah, yeah, they lived in the first court. Chisholm was their last name.
Okay, like the Congress person, like spelled the same, right? Shirley Chisholm.
I think so. Yeah, but
Okay, okay,
yeah,
interesting.
they were in the first court. Let me think who else was influential to me. Oh, well, there was, I know, Ingrid, the opera singer. Did you hear about her?
Oh yeah. That was she was married to Bill Taylor, right?
Yes,
Uh
it was a biracial couple. Yeah, I lived above them.
oh, tell me what you remember about them.
Well, I was their daughter would babysit for me sometime. I think her name was Sharon.
Yeah, yeah.
She was a large woman, a young woman, and I think there was some Italian guy that she liked with a sports car. I forget his name. Babysit a lot. I liked Ingrid. She was kind of warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
I think she took up a lot of space, so I think I couldn't be around her too much. Oh, but there was a crazy thing that happened in the coast. I don't know if you know about Big Ed and the killing of his brother.
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, this was wild. I was living in, I think it was, where did it, I don't remember, I think it was a third court, I don't remember which court it was. Anyhow, I was on the fourth floor there, I guess, and Big Ed and Mary, they lived above us. And Mary was developmentally disabled.
Yeah.
And we called him Big Ed. He's kind of this lumbering, kind of crazy kind of seeming guy. And Mary had a baby. And Mary would sometimes leave the baby with me or with there was an old lady next to me, I forget her name, and with her. And then she left the baby with Rose and said something about, please take or sell my baby.
Okay.
So I guess I got out of the picture. Well, Big Ed still lived there. I may be mixing up when she left. Big Ed was still there. And before the murder, which happened, he had a brother that lived, I don't know if the brother lived in the Coops, but he lived near there.
Yeah.
And I remember Eddie, my first husband, said he had seen Big Ed bloody outside, but Eddie was also Michiganer, so I don't know, if it was true or not. But at any rate, it turned out that Big Ed, who lived right above us, I don't know if he did it on the roof, he killed his brother. I
Oh,
think
wow.
it was on the roof. I'm sure you could find it in the newspaper.
Yeah.
He killed his brother. We found out about that because I remember we were scared. We when Eddie said he saw the guy bloody, remember we put rope on our door so we couldn't open the door. You would
Yeah.
hear screaming and yelling all the time. But yeah,
Wow.
it was creepy. There was a murder. Yeah, Big Ed killed his brother. And then another strange thing I remember, there was a young woman. She was engaged to somebody in the Coops, and they were supposed to get married the next day. And then they found her. She had suicided in the bathtub or something the day of the
Wow.
wedding. And yeah, that I remember that too, but I don't remember the name.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I hadn't heard either of those
Yeah,
stories.
Alice, or someone that was there more might know. You're in touch with Alice McKenzie?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I'd love to be in touch with her.
Yeah. 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 I can put you in touch.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to, see if it's okay with her. But yeah, no, we were good friends. We were dance friends. We,
That makes sense. That
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, she was a ballet dancer.
Yeah. I know she was. I know she was. And that was a huge part of her life. I know.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then my sister was friends with Jane.
oh, okay. Yeah. I've been in touch with Jane too.
Yeah,
Jane
I
lives
don't
in
know if,
Mexico.
yeah, I don't, and I don't know if you know Tina and Lefty, but they used to live there. Tina, I forget her last name.
I forget her last name too, but I definitely heard Tina
Well, her
mentioned.
father was amazing. He was like this Greek Jew, big, beautiful, gray, lots of hair. He impressed us. He looked wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Tina Moreau, I think is
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah. That was my sister's best friend. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay. I see.
yeah.
I
Tina,
see.
because Tina and Teddy and Peppy and Al lived together for a while in Brooklyn and lived together different places.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I don't know if I asked you this before, but just out of curiosity, there's another interesting person at the Coops. There's so many interesting people from the Coops, but did you ever have any interaction with Queen Mother Moore or Audley Moore? What's her name? Um,
Sounds familiar, but
she probably would have been wearing, traditional like West African robe by this point.
mm,
Um,
I'm not sure. Now, Larry Morton, I think it was no, that was outside of the Coops. Danny Hafner and Larry. I think
I've heard Larry's name before. Yeah, yeah.
Larry Morton also was biracial family. But I think that he lived around the corner separately. I'm not sure.
I think
And
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, and then Danny's Joella's cousin.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
Yeah.
mentioned Danny
And
before.
then Tamar. I'm sure you got in touch with Tamar. I knew her as Estelle.
Oh, okay, okay. I see. I
I
see.
think I told you Estelle and I wanted to do this dance at Columbus High School, but it was to a communist song. They wouldn't let us do it. Oh, it was Viva la Conce Brigada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were
Wow.
going to do it in the show. They said, no, you can't do that.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
Uh, um,
wait a time.
wow. So yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add, either about your own life or about the Coops or the Bronx, your family? Always like to give people the opportunity to add on things that we might not have covered so far.
God, I don't know. Probably covered it. But I don't know. Um, what do I want to add? No, just hoping to get older and not get dementia.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the
And
final question I have for you before we end, um, what are some things that you'd like to pass on to your children and grandchildren? Whatever it might be, jokes, wisdom,
yeah,
experiences, things like that.
Yeah, and I have, they know about their kooky grandma pretty much. You know, humanity, caring for human beings. I'd like more political activism from them, but in their own way, I think they're
Sure.
doing, you know, follow your star, be who you are, laugh, laugh, love, have doggies. One thing I'd like to say, which I would like not to pass on, I've suffered as an anorexic, and to this day, I'm still pretty messed up and very attached to being too thin. So I would hope that they could get out of the genes, because it's been in my family. Get that anorexic gene out of the family as it goes on.
Sure, sure.
That's been a plague. I mean,
Absolutely.
I accept it and I live with it, but you know, I'd like to eat more pizza and have cake and stuff, but I don't. Maybe the next generation will.
Eat more cake, right? That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for sharing everything that you've shared and both parts of this oral history. Um, you know, I think there's so many aspects of your life that, you know, when people go back and think about whether it's the history of the Bronx or New York City or the history of you know, Jews in the Bronx. I mean, a lot of aspects of your history are ones that tend to be covered over or ignored or kind of intentionally obscured. So it's really important to record these oral histories to make sure that, you know, these histories aren't just covered over, because it's such. I mean, your life, your family. It's such with all the struggles and all, like such an important thing to preserve. I mean, you know, I just can't even imagine uh, going through all of the struggles that your family went through and being as courageous. You know, again, I know there were a lot of difficult parts as well, but I mean, with McCarthyism, with just the general like pressure to conform, and here you have, you know, your living testimony that you don't have to conform, and that's really really important to record. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And I look forward to, you know, seeing this thing. And I don't know if I can get there or not, but if not, I'll be able to see it digitally.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording right now.